Hey there, and welcome to BSing with Why Eagle Y. We're a veteran-run podcast, just hanging out, swapping stories, tossing around wild ideas, and having a good time along the way. Pull up a chair, grab you a drink, and join us as we talk about whatever comes to mind and have a blast doing it. And don't forget to look in the description for a 10% off code with W. Whether you need to be hydrated or given a boost of energy, W has the answer. Tonight, we have a special guest, known for his in-depth album reviews on Retro FM podcasts, streaming on Spotify, and hosting on Static Shift Radio, Tha Ferg. He dives into music that spans generations. From Led Zeppelin and Kiss to the Eagles, his passion for classic rock and musical influences runs deep. Let's give a warm welcome to Tha Ferg. All right, man. Tell us somebody. Let us know. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear you real good.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, music's been a part of my life ever since I was young, ever since I was little.
Yeah.
And in particular, rock and roll music has been a big part of my life. And that's what I'm passionate about. I grew up listening to my dad just about every evening in our kitchen playing stuff like The Doors, Janis Joplin, CCR, Neil Diamond. He'd play Marty Robbins, Jan and Dean, Tommy James and the Shondells. And I grew up hearing that, but also the influence of music at my grandmother's house. My grandmother's a big, huge Sam Cooke fan, loved Sam Cooke and his soulful voice. And then, of course, my uncle, who always lived with my grandmother, he would always play the old Motown records. And he was the one, where I would hear stuff like the Beatles and, Buddy Holly, Elvis, things like that, and some of the doo-wop music. And so all of that really pumped and primed me and got me ready so that whenever the 80s hit and when the MTV finally hit our TV, as a young man, I don't have the money and the ability to go to concerts like older people. And so they're coming straight to me through my TV. And I was hearing all those great 80s metal bands, Poison and Aerosmith, which actually started before then. And we're hearing Def Leppard, we're hearing Bon Jovi, we're hearing Guns N' Roses. And of course, during those times also, Michael Jackson was the biggest thing on the planet. I don't care who you were. Michael Jackson was the coolest dude ever, and everybody wanted to learn to do the moonwalk. And by the way, I'll tell you, I still can't do it. I wish I could. But we all wanted to be like Michael, and we all wanted that cool jacket that Michael had. And of course, MTV became a staple in our lives, and great rock and roll and rock videos. And man, I was pumped. We'd go to school and talk about it. And I'll never forget, as the 80s are closing out and the 90s are coming in, this is when I'm starting high school as the 90s are coming in. And you loved all the bands that you were hearing all your life growing up. And then, man, something happened. And you already know what I'm going to say. Nirvana kicked the door wide open to a brand new era of music. And there were bands that were already playing alternative rock and playing indie rock and a lot of new styles of rock and roll during those 80s, but those weren't being played over radio. Those weren't being played on MTV. They were showing up on your college radio stations. They were showing up in different venues. But when Smells Like Teen Spirit got played over and over and over, my generation really gravitated to it and grabbed onto it because we had heard all the sex, drugs, rock and roll, rock songs. We had heard all the songs about motorcycles and girls and fast cars and love and ballads and some of the coolest guitar solos you've ever heard in your life, especially as everybody in the early 80s for a time kind of wanted to copy Eddie Van Halen and possibly Randy Rhoads and George Lynch and some of those guys. That's one of the cool things I always loved about Slash. If you notice, Slash, he never held a guitar that had a whammy bar on it. And he never tried to copy anybody. He just kind of did his own thing. Now, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. And so all those guys had their influences, not saying they didn't borrow or use from a, but we really, we grabbed onto that grunge movement as we were going into the era of alternative music, because now, for the very first time, you're hearing bands talk about bullies. The song Jeremy by Pearl Jam, you never heard a song about a bully before. You never heard them talking about the struggling of just getting through your high school days, just getting through nervous teenage angst, as they call it, and so forth. And so we gravitated to that, and I gravitated to that. But something about me that I think that is unique to my musical journey and my musical story is, in the midst of all that, Robert, in the midst of the grunge movement, guess what happened to me?
What's that?
Right in the middle of all that, we've had 80s metal, we've got grunge, we've got alternative going on, full blast. The year is 1993, and I'm riding with a buddy of mine in his truck, and he's blasting this album, and it's a live album. Now, throughout the 80s and 90s, you didn't hear very many live albums. That was something they did in the 70s. You just didn't hear it. And I'm like, hey, who is that? He said, man, that's Kiss. I said, dude, you're BSing me. I said, you're BSing me. There's no freaking way that that's Kiss. And he held up for me the Alive 3 album, which was on CD at that time, which to date is probably their best sounding live album, in my opinion, or at least it was out of the 3 that were published by that time. And I've got like a year before I'm going to be a senior in high school. And we're right smack dab in the middle of the grunge era. And I'm discovering Kiss for the first time. And so I tell him, I was like, dude, you're full of it. I don't believe you. He's like, no way, dude. Listen, this is, and he showed me, and I said, well, crank that up. And we listened to that entire album the rest of the ride. And I became an avid Kiss fan. And so, man, just, right there in the middle of that. And funny story too, I got so hooked on Kiss at the time, and I'll get to what I'm doing now. But I want to tell you this journey. So on this journey, I'm discovering Kiss in the middle of the grunge era. And this is a funny story. I did something that Gene and Paul from Kiss would never, ever do. I'm so into them at the time that I'm talking to my friends about it and everything. And they're like, oh, yeah, my dad used to listen to those guys, or my aunt, my uncle used to listen. I got these old tapes, or I've got, and people are coming to me to share and sharing with me stuff. And around the same time that happened, I'd spent the night with a friend of mine over at his house over the weekend. And I don't know if you guys remember back when girls used to take those glamour shots. Back in the day, nowadays, they do filters and selfies and everything. We got cell phones and everything. But back when I was growing up, girls would do what they call glamour shots. And while I'm staying over at my buddy's house, he happened to show me a picture of a particular girl that we knew and was a few years younger than us. And I made the mistake of saying how pretty I thought she was. And I say mistake because I didn't expect my buddy to go back to school and tell her all about it, or go behind and tell her all about it. Well, funny story. She comes to school after hearing what I'd said, and she's all dolled up one day from head to toe, the 9s. She's all dolled up and hangs out in the area that we all hung out early in the morning. And me being clueless at that age of what she's doing, a buddy of mine comes running up out of nowhere with this Kiss album. And I think it was Hot in the Shade, or maybe the Animalize album. I can't remember which one it was, but he comes running up and telling me about it. And I get all excited. and we're going out to his truck to listen to it. And I left her standing there after she's wanting my attention because she got all dolled up for me because my buddy told her what I said. And it's the funniest thing because Gene or Paul would never do that. But I did redeem myself. She stayed mad at me the rest of the day, and I found out that that's why. But I did redeem myself. We ended up staying good friends, and she ended up going to the prom with me. And so I kind of recovered a little bit. But that passion for music, that passion for rock music, for alternative music, that passion stayed with me. And it stayed with me my whole life. Now, I do want to clarify something. And in that generation, not only were we getting amazing music out of the grunge and alternative era, but we had some of the best rap music ever come out of that era, in my opinion, and also some of the best country music come out. And the thing of it is, us old rock heads and metal heads of those days, we still listened to a lot of rap and a lot of country music as well in those days. But I remained passionate, I guess, more so to the rock genre. And then later got introduced to blues and really did a deep dive into blues. Fast forward to what I'm doing now. Fast forward is throughout the years, everybody's always told me, it's like, man, you got a voice for radio. You should be in radio. You should be doing things on radio. And I tried. There were some years back, probably 10 to 12 years ago, if I'm judging the time period right, I had reached out to some of the local radio stations in my era and in my area rather. And I'd even sent in some promo videos that I cut and things like that. But at the time, they were really looking for somebody that had experience in sales, not somebody with a wonderful radio voice who would be a great personality on radio. And of course, I got one buddy of mine that always jokes with me that I got a face for radio. You guys can be the judge of that. I always thought that was funny. But I quit pursuing it when I got turned down. I kind of quit pursuing it and I just kind of went my own way. But I've always, for some reason, been drawn to musicians. I've been drawn to people in music. I've known several local Christian music artists. I've known several local artists that do covers. And I've just always been drawn to people that were involved with music. And they seem to cross my path. I seem to cross their path. And so I build these friendships and build these relationships. And they're some of the most wonderful and enjoyable relationships to have because musicians, they're a whole different community and have passion for something that you have passion for and have a love and a hold on life in a different way because music is therapeutic. Something I've said to people for many, many years is you can hide in the music. And that's something the blues does for you too. If you're ever down and out, I found the blues can bring you up. And it does that for me. And so as I've gone through life making these connections, I've made some connections, and I don't know if I'm allowed to tell some personal stories or not, but I do have a few personal stories that I'd like to share. But I don't want to call anybody out that I don't have the authorization to call out. And so I don't want to call out anybody's name that I'm not authorized to do, but I will tell you, there was a teacher of mine that taught me Tennessee history, love him to death. And I'll just name his first name if it's okay to name him. But Brent used to play in a lot of cover bands, and they covered a lot of Judas Priest. And one story that he told me, so I'm giving this to you guys third person. I got it from him, but I thought this was the coolest story ever. He shared with me how that one time they wanted somebody to drive Paul Rogers back to the hotel. And you always want somebody who's not just going to wig out and go all fanboy on somebody famous. And I think the audience knows who Paul Rogers is. Am I correct? And so...
Well, they should.
And if you don't know, Paul Rogers from Bad Company and Free, very wonderful, wonderful musician, singer, songwriter. And by the way, he guest stars on Slash's blues album, Orgy of the Damned. I was very excited to see him on that album. And so put in a plug there for Slash's blues album. But Brent was taking Paul back to the hotel, and he happens to ask him a particular question. He says, "How did you guys get that Southern sound in your music?" And you'll never believe the answer. As Brent tells the story, Paul replied back simply with this: "We love Carl Perkins." And I said, wow, that's amazing. Because right in the area where I'm from, for all your listeners and viewers, I'm right here in West Tennessee. I wasn't born here, but I was raised here, and I've lived here for the most part of my life. And Carl Perkins is a big deal around here and had a lot of influence on a lot of bands, a lot of rockabilly bands, had a big influence on the Beatles, obviously, and had connections with Johnny Cash and Elvis. And that's huge around here. And I just thought it was a thrill to hear that story from Brent. And I could tell numerous stories from people that I know, but I want to get to what I'm doing now. I just wanted to throw that in there to give West Tennessee a little bit of shout out. The late, great Carl Perkins, who is a legend.
You have a Tennessee guy in the house right now.
All right.
So, Justin, shout out to Golden. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being here. And so, knowing for years that I feel like I was meant to do something with this. I met a young man a few years back by the name of Jacob Landers. He's a good friend of mine. I don't mind mentioning his name because he's like a brother to me. And we formed a bond over music. That's how we became to form a bond. But he's quite a bit younger than me, but he's an old soul. And he loves the older music. He's a big Waylon Jennings fan, big Elvis fan, and loves the older music. And we were hanging out in one of our local spots where a lot of people know us, and we're just having this back and forth conversation about music. And somebody had said to us, "Why don't you guys do a podcast?" And we thought, why don't we? And the more we talked about it, the more we thought about it, Jacob and I dove head first in, and we launched the Retro FM podcast sometime late last year, earlier this year. And our very first episode that we did, which was audio to begin with, we just started video toward the end of things here just not so long ago. And we've got some other things coming down the pipeline, by the way. We only have 9 episodes out so far, but we are working on things. He also sings and writes and plays country music. He has an album out titled Me and My Guitar. But we jumped head first in, and we started with Led Zeppelin because when we started the podcast, it was perfect timing. It was right when Led Zeppelin was doing their documentary that they just came out with, which we thought was huge because if you know anything about Led Zeppelin, they've never been much on interviews. They've never been much on documentaries and putting all that out there. So that's where we started. And we dove right in head first. And there's somewhere middle ways of the podcast.
Ferg, I don't want to cut you off right quick, but
sure, go ahead.
Can you let the audience know where they can find y'all's podcast?
Absolutely.
Retro FM.
Absolutely, and thanks for stopping me there. Sometimes I need to be cut off. I can go a little long. The Retro FM podcast, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Music and just about anywhere that you stream or download podcasts. You can find us there. Several of our episodes are audio. We do have some video episodes there on YouTube, but thank you. Thank you very much. You can find us there, and we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you like and subscribe. We'd love to have you listen. And if there's something there you don't like, skip that one and find one that you do. And we hope to be bringing you some new episodes here real soon.
Good deal, man. And that way, you know, everybody can, like, they know where to find you. Also, we're going to talk a little more later about Static Shift Radio, how that came about. And he's also on there as well. So that'll be coming up here in a little bit. So go ahead, Ferg, continue. I just wanted to make sure everybody knows where to find you.
Absolutely. And we also have a Retro FM podcast Facebook page. We have that up as well, where we've tried to load all the videos, but we also share some other things music related on there. And of course, I share things on all of my social media, my Instagram, my Facebook. I try to share some things on TikTok, but TikTok's more for short videos. They'll accept my long ones, but the short ones, somewhere there, while doing the Retro FM podcast with Jacob, who is wonderful, by the way, a wonderful host, wonderful friend, wonderful brother, wonderful singer, songwriter, and also has a great voice, my car broke down. And when my car broke down, we weren't able to get together as often as we wanted to. And so I started doing some solo projects and some solo work under my channel, Fergin Around, which is also on YouTube. That's a name I've had for years and years that can be used for a lot of things. And there's a story behind that. And I could tell you guys later, but I want to stick with the music. But as my last name is Ferguson, for years and years, ever since I was little, a school teacher got it started calling me Ferg or Fergie. And so through the years, I've always been Ferg or Fergie. And somewhere along the lines, it got transformed to The Ferg. And then to be a little unique, I guess I put the A there instead of the E. And so I started doing some solo projects on my own, covering some of the bands that we wanted to cover on the podcast and covering some albums, and also with the inspiration of wanting to run through the 90s, some of the most essential albums of the 90s. And so while Jacob and I are running the podcast and I'm doing solo projects and I'm posting things everywhere, I got to be honest with you, Robert. I got to be honest with the audience. Sometimes when you're doing all of this, you're doing it out of your passion, your love for music, and you're paying the bands the utmost respect that you possibly can, because I do prepare. And a lot of times I do several takes, but I try to study, I try to prepare, and I try to pay everybody the proper due. I don't want to come at it kind of half-cocked. But you think sometimes that you're playing to empty seats. You think nobody's listening. You think nobody's watching. You think possibly because that maybe you're not getting the likes, maybe you're not getting the subscriptions, you're not getting the views. You think nobody's watching. I thought nobody was watching. And sometimes in your local hometown, you get less exposure, less, you know how it is. People where you grew up sometimes don't show you the same love and support that a stranger will. And you do get some love and support. Don't want to say that I don't, because there are people that definitely in the family and around here that support us. But you see things and you look at things, you're like, nobody's watching. Nobody really cares. And you kind of wonder if you ought to throw in the towel. Well, that's where
Never give up.
That's where, or give up. Absolutely. And that's where Static Shift comes in. Out of the blue, out of nowhere, this guy shot me a message. This guy named Ed shot me a message out of nowhere and says, hey, I know you've got a podcast. I know you've got a channel. I know you've got a lot going on. I know you do a lot of things. But he began to tell me about this internet radio station that he was running, featuring a lot of alternative bands and indie bands on some independent labels and records, bands that are up and coming. He said, I want to form a partnership. And he asked if I would be interested in doing some band interviews and some band reviews. He said, I like your content. I like what you're doing. Would you be interested in doing a partnership? And told me it didn't have to take away from what I was already doing. And I thought about it and I said, wow. First off, I thought, wow, somebody's listening, because he's from all the way up in Connecticut. Here I am in Tennessee, little old me, just doing my thing, talking about great bands like Led Zeppelin and Kiss and the band and the Eagles, and talking about, Tesla, and just talking about bands that we loved and grew up with and never thought anybody was listening. And so he pitched the idea of a partnership. And so I decided to jump on board with him. I decided to jump fully on board with him and start doing some band reviews. And I got to tell you, we have got some exciting bands on the station. We really do. And I've been able to make a personal connection with several of the bands so far because of my work, and never thought that I'd be in this position. Never thought that I would be talking to some of these amazing bands, some of these amazing artists, and talking to them about what they're doing and reviewing their bands. And I got to tell you, the great thing is they've been so appreciative, very appreciative. And we've got, God, I wanted to say upwards of 30 bands on the channel right now. And one of the bands that recently joined our channel is the band you see featured on my shirt here, Awaiting Abigail. Awaiting Abigail, I had not even joined Static Shift yet. Didn't even know Static Shift existed, but I came across these guys and was blown away. If you guys like Evanescence, Hailstorm, The Pretty Reckless in this moment, you're going to love these guys. And in fact, tonight they're playing at the famous Whiskey A Go Go. And I told them, I reached out to them earlier today, and I told the band, I hope you guys go in there and blow the roof off the place. And I think it's pretty awesome when a band plays the Whiskey. That's a legendary place. And so when you play the Whiskey, you know that finally your music is reaching somebody, and that's a pretty special ordeal right there. And if I could just give a shout out, we've got several bands. I don't want to leave anybody out, but if I listed everybody, you guys might cut me off at some point. But there's several new bands that have joined our station recently. Just recently, band by the name of Indecisive Punk. We've just recently had Mel Giselle join us. The band Schmooze, which I recently did a review for, and an amazing, amazing band. That's another band I'm going to tell you, you guys got to check those guys out. Love and a 38, Bad Guru, Rat Sauce, the Lot Lizards recently joined us.
I think I've seen them, yeah.
The band In My Basement, Trees Marie and her band, fantastic. And she moves me in the way that her music is classy and classic, but it rocks, but she brings a little bit of cabaret into it too, kind of a Jessica Rabbit thing. And I'm telling you, fantastic stuff. But I want to give a shout out. I also was able to do a review, the band 42. Love those guys. They're a punk trio, and you had them on your podcast, had them on your show.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm telling you, if I could just give a shout out to those guys again, you guys have got to go listen to those guys again. Man, if you love Green Day, Sum 41, I mean, Blink 182, you love bands like that, you're going to love these guys. Absolutely, they'll rock your socks off. And I think they're on River Monster Records as well. You can find them, and you can find them and all these bands. Another band I reviewed recently. Yeah, show everybody the album.
So, this is the album for 42. It's Bibelbrox. All right. Also, River Monster Records sent me this album.
Bedlam.
So I want to shout out to River Monster Records. So, yeah, man, that was a great show when 42 came on. I've had a lot of great shows, different music genres. I know Dakota Faye. He's a little different. He's not classic rock, but y'all check him out. Got Zach Riffle, Crimson Red.
I think I've heard of Crimson Red. I think I've heard of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully many more, man. We've had a lot of great shows. And you were talking about you were talking about how music is therapeutic.
Yes.
And one of my podcasts that I've done, I come across a guy, and actually, shout out to Lucas from 42, because he put me in touch with a guy that what he does is play therapeutic music for soldiers,
Oh, heck
um,
yeah. Heck
soldiers with
yeah.
PTSD and whatnot. So uh, he does have some stuff on YouTube. Let's see.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I can totally
That
respect that.
Oryx, Oryx is his name.
Okay.
He's a Marine, and he should be coming up on retirement. But if check out the episode 20. Let's see, 22.
Okay.
Go back to that one, and that he plays the blues. Okay, he likes playing
Oh,
the
I love
blues. He
that.
plays. This guy he's an amazing. He does an amazing job. He goes out and plays therapeutic music for these soldiers. And when you said therapeutic earlier, I was like, ding ding. I have to bring it up because Oric does a great job, and he also played live for us so on the show. So
Oh,
you have
that's
to check it
amazing.
out, man. Yeah, he does a great job. But
Well,
yeah.
Horace, can
So
I say thank you while I'm on here? I'll say thank you because I've got a brother that served 24 years in the Navy, just retired a few years ago, retired as an officer and came out. And I'll tell you what, from my family, we have a deep respect for our military servicemen and women. And so thank you. Thank you for doing that. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah, brother.
yep. So yeah, hey, it's always awesome when you run across that, man. And you know, like we spoke about before we started this, is that my intentions were, starting a podcast, and I was just gonna BS, like
Mhm.
in the name, BSing with Why Eagle Y. And so what we did was we started off as, having conversations, and it led up to uh, an artist, Zach Riffle. He was the first music artist that I had on the show. And I think that was my turning point in the podcasting because I think I found what most people say, niche, because I
Right.
love listening to music. I love listening to different music.
Right.
And um, so it started out like that. And then one of Zach's buddies reached out to me, and we went from there. And it's just been snowballing. And now, don't get me wrong, we call it BSing for a reason. So every now and then we get the guys together and we're gonna BS it.
Do a little
We
BS.
have we
Okay.
yeah. So, but I do plan on in the future to continue on, having these great podcasts with these music artists like you do, Ferg. And I've watched several. That's how I came across Ferg, by the way, is I was sitting there scrolling on Instagram, and I was like, oh, well, check this out. And this dude, I was like, dang, this dude got a radio voice. It's like, so, and then uh, reached out or started following him. And then I think 42 mentioned me to you. And then
Right.
we started talking, and then Ed reached out to me. Shout out to Ed, Static Shift Radio.
Find
But
Static Shift
yeah, man, it's
Radio on Instagram and it's linked into Facebook.
okay.
For this
But
last month, because of you, because of the viewers, because of fans like you, over 12,000 views this last month. So thank you. Thank
awesome.
everybody for watching.
Awesome. But it's crazy how things go, work its way, So it's amazing.
It is. And if I could just share with the audience something that I meant to tell you while sharing a little bit about me is my mission and Jacob's mission, my podcast partner on Retro FM podcast, when we really began, our passion is it's not that we don't like top 40 radio, because that's what introduced us to a lot of bands and things, but it's always been our mission to do deep dives and we want to inspire others. We want to inspire you to listen to and discover music by bands that maybe you've loved your whole life, but you never knew that song was out there, because nowadays with everyone streaming and downloading, nobody buys whole albums much anymore. And my kids make fun of me for still buying CDs, but I still play CDs. I love to have something tangible in my hands. And by the way, you can't stream an autograph. And I recently got 3 autographed albums. And so that's pretty cool. But our whole goal and purpose is to inspire everybody to dig deeper and find hidden gems by bands you've always loved. And then with Static Shift, to find bands you've not heard of yet that are up and coming, that are bringing some of the most amazing, amazing music. And there's a diverse group on Static Shift. One of my favorite bands is Lauren Nicole's band. They're not necessarily heavy metal. What they do, they have more of a southern rock, blues, maybe a little bit of country approach to it, but they work so well. And when she backs away sometimes and allows the band to jam, they really jam. And then there's times they allow her to just shine, and she really does. And we've got a diverse group. We've got punk groups, we've got indie groups, alternative groups. The band No Fly List reminds me a lot of Maroon 5, and they're kind of unique because they have 2 singers. They have a female lead and a male lead. They've got Emma and Aleem, and those guys switch off of one another and just do a fantastic job. So you guys are going to want to check them out also, No Fly List. There's certain lists you want to be a part of and certain lists you don't want to be a part of. You don't want to be on Santa's naughty list. You don't want to be on anybody's S list. And you don't want to be on the no fly list, but you do want the band No Fly List on your playlist. So throw that little plug in there for another one of our bands, if that's all right.
No Fly Zone.
No Fly List.
Oh, No Fly List. My bad.
And you
Writing
mentioned
it down. I'm keeping my notes.
yeah, you mentioned Crimson Red earlier. We've got a band that we feature on the channel, Touch of Red.
Touch of Red.
Touch of Red.
So is that what kind of, is it punk or indie? Or?
It's more of a hard rock, kind of hard rock and alternative band. And I'm hoping to get around to all these guys. I've got a certain number of reviews up so far on the page, and Ed has brought in some other collaborators with us. He's brought in some photographers that we're trying to get on board with us. He's brought in a young lady by the name of Rayz, R-A-Y-Z, and she's going to start doing some of the international reviews for us. And she just brought a review for us on Rorschach Inc. recently, and they're out of Japan. Very interesting.
Nice.
So you might want to check that out. It's just kind of exciting because, as I told you, I never thought I would be in this position. I'm not officially on radio, but now I'm officially on radio of sorts, internet radio, and it's just real exciting. It can get overwhelming at times because we're bringing so many bands in, and you want to get to everybody. You want to let everybody know that you haven't forgot about them. You want to let everybody know that their band and their music's important. And so we're also hosting an upcoming contest for the OGs. Some of the bands that really started with Ed at the beginning of the station, that really were the ones to kick off Static Shift Radio. We're hosting a contest now to see everybody vote for some of the first several bands, and they're going to be the next ones to get a review.
That's pretty cool.
And we're hoping if you'll partner with us a little bit, maybe just like you're interviewing me today, you could interview some of our bands and share that with your listeners and viewers just as well as ours.
Yeah, man. I'd love to do that. That way, you know, like you were saying earlier, it's from what, Connecticut? Right? And then you're from West Tennessee. I'm from Louisiana. So it's pretty awesome with the technology we have today that we've been able to reach out to one another, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and I'd love to do that too. So, and as I come across them as well, like classic rock or rock style punk, indie, I'll make sure to send them y'all's way as well.
Shoot,
You
yeah.
know, it always helps the band too, because to be able to get their name out, I think that's one of the issues that as a as an outsider looking in, I find that certain bands, because say I come across them just by chance, okay, and
Right.
I've never heard of them, and so I'm like, listen to their music, and then I search for them, and then, I pull up some YouTube or Spotify, or, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna listen to this album, and then I'm like, man, not bad, and then I reach out to them, because, I don't charge anyone to be on the show.
Right.
It's all about, being able to help these guys, and, being able to get their name out there in different areas,
Absolutely.
like say Louisiana. I can walk out in the town, be like, "Hey, do you know these guys?" And they're like, "Never heard of them before." I said, "Okay, well, you're about to,"
That's right.
So, and I enjoy this, so, and eventually the bands, they start spreading, and like I have friends in Arizona, I have friends in California, I have friends in Colorado, and it spreads,
And it's
and I
exciting when you see it spread because our passion is to share the music. And so when you see one of the bands that you're passionate about starting to get that recognition, you get a little excited too, don't you? You get kind of,
oh yeah,
yeah,
I enjoy it, man, because then you see them getting out there, and then you'll hear, like, every so often they'll message me, and they're like, man, he's like, how's things going, or how you doing, man? And he's like, or somebody will be like, hey, we need to do another show,
right.
and I'm like, yeah, man. So yeah, it's always interesting, and then um, like certain one, or pretty much any one of them, if they end up throwing a show in my area, they're gonna shout out to me, and I'm
Right.
gonna I'm gonna go out there, and I'm gonna see them personally, meet them. Everything's virtual right now, but when they make their rounds and get to me or close to me, I'm gonna make that trip, and I'm gonna go watch
Absolutely.
them. Yeah,
Absolutely. And being here in West Tennessee, I'm just waiting for some of our great bands, and we have some great bands, and you guys do as well. I'm just waiting for them to come to Nashville, Memphis area, or even if they get close, like St. Louis. Of course, some friends of mine and I were going to St. Louis in September to see Marilyn Manson. But if some of our bands get that close, we would love it. We would love nothing more than to be able to go and then introduce ourselves. And the thing of it is that I've been telling everybody, and that I tell our bands, I tell everybody, we're a community. We're a community. We have to support one another. But you got to realize at the end of the day, too, these are people, too, with real feelings, real concerns, real desires, passions for life, just like what we've got. And this is
yeah,
their living, this is their life. And so to lift them up and to be able to share with others, the thing of it is, recently we made a trip. Jacob and I did. We took the Retro FM podcast on the road, and we went up to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, to visit with Jerry Hollywood Galloway, good friend that Jacob introduced me to, that he and his family's known for a long time. And Hollywood's just the greatest guy ever. And one of the things he told me while we were there, he said, be nice to everybody on your way up, because you might need them
yep,
again on your way back down. And I said, that's a
yes,
good piece of advice right there. Be good to everybody, treat everybody with respect and love and honor, and you know, be good to everybody, be cool to everybody. These are people. They may be musicians, but they're people like me and you, and be good to people, and they'll remember that.
yeah,
And so far I can testify that everybody I've reached out to, everybody's been great. I can't think of a single band or band member that's communicated back to me that hasn't shown the greatest appreciation for what we're doing. And in fact, just recently, Kitten K. Sarah from the Pinktastic Plastics, the all pink Barbie pop punk group, she has shown great appreciation for any promotion that the station has done, anything that we've done. And I love it because, you know, you think that what you're doing is not reaching anybody. You think what you're doing, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I don't know if you deal with this. I'm my worst own critic. And so sometimes I get imposter syndrome. That is, I'll be asking myself, what the heck are you who the heck do you think you are? Why do you think you're doing this? And who are you to be talking to bands? And who are you to be? And I have to remember, I'm the Ferg. That's who I am. And if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Because
Yep.
the reason you and I have heard of any band we've ever heard of, word of mouth, somebody else shared, just like in the middle of the grunge era, when everybody's listening to Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all the bands, Soundgarden, God, I can name them all, Smashing Pumpkins, one of my favorite, Bush. I got to see them last year, and pretty exciting. I got a funny story that I'll tell you about that if you're up for it. A funny story. But point being, while all that's going on, my buddy driving his truck was playing Kiss, and that's how I discovered them. Word of mouth. We are the vehicle that drives the music, and if we don't keep doing it, who's going to do it? Because you know as well as I do, radio's only going to play so much. They're only going to play
Yep.
certain songs. They're only going to play certain bands, and they're only going to play certain stuff at certain times of day. It's only when you get a cool radio show, like at the end of the day, like maybe Dee Snider's on, maybe Sammy Hagar's on, maybe somebody, and they'll play some extra stuff you don't normally hear. But normal, regular, every day, whether it's classic rock or the new rock stations, there's only certain stuff they're going to play. And so I feel like we got a mission. If we're really passionate about what we're doing, we got a mission to put these bands and put their music out there in front of people so that they can continue to grow their followers and listeners. And they're going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
They're going to love you for it. They're going to love you for your podcast, bro.
Yeah, it's always awesome, man. Especially meeting new bands that are coming up. And it's always exciting when they get excited. You know, because like you were saying earlier, when I go to reach out to the bands, I'm like, man, should I even do that? Or, you know, and I'm like, you got to, so
Right.
it's like, I'm going to email them. You know what? I mean, they're going to either not respond, tell me no, or be like, yes, of course. You know what I'm saying? So, and I've gone ahead and made it to where when I come across the band, if I enjoy the music, I'm gonna email them. I'm reaching out.
Right.
And whether they tell me no or yes, it's not gonna stop me from reaching out. I tried, you know what I'm saying, and I will continue to reach out. So I enjoy it, man, especially coming across music I love. I love all kinds of genres. And believe it or not, I love classical music too. So.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
I like some classical. So, but yeah, man, all genres. And yeah, it's pretty cool to watch these bands grow. You know, especially any of them that you've ever talked to or you interviewed, and you watch them like you're sitting back, and you're watching them grow. And it's
Right.
like, that's awesome. That is
yeah.
awesome. And I mean, yeah, it's cool. I kind of just fell into the niche kind of thing. So, because like I was telling you earlier, it didn't start off like this. It just happened.
Right.
So,
And it seems like the further you go along, like I said, sometimes you question yourself. You're like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? Am I, and you're like, who the heck am I? But then it's like there's a driving force behind you that tells you, no, I got to do this. I've got to do this. And I love it. I honest to God love it. I love it. And from time to time, I'll put up some videos on YouTube, some shorts and so forth. And I've gotten some comments where people think, well, I'll tell you an interesting comment. I did a video where I'll shop at some of my local stores here and I'll try to find CDs, albums that I don't have. And I come across and I found some great stuff that I said was gold nuggets. And I did a short little video, and this guy comes back and comments. He says, "Are you literally Bryan Cranston?" He says, "My dad would get killed for doing something like this." Because the younger generation, maybe sometimes because they stream and download, they don't understand our passion for those things. And I don't fault anybody for streaming or downloading. In fact, almost everyone, in fact, every one of our artists, including my partner Jacob on the podcast, every artist has music available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, anywhere you can stream. You can stream our bands. You can stream these guys. So check out their links. The links are going to be in their personal pages. When you click on Static Shift and you click on one of the posts we have of one of our great, amazing bands on there, they should have a link tree or something in there. Not everybody has a bio or a fan page. Some have some amazing fan pages. Waiting Abigail has an awesome fan page. They really do. You got to check them out. And some of the other bands really do. Lauren Nicole's got a great fan page. I mentioned No Fly List earlier. Theirs is really fun and quirky. You got to check out theirs. But almost everybody has their music where you can stream or download it or listen to it. And so, yeah, do that. But it's just funny. During your passion, you want to share with everybody. And so when I find gold nuggets, sometimes I'll go on and I'll post a video just saying, "Look, this is what I found." And I'll share bands that we do know and love, you know.
Heck, we can have see if the producer will pull up a couple of their pages so we can check them out. Let the audience check them out.
Heck yeah. In fact, I'm going to talk about an album real quick, a little gold nugget. I love discovering stuff that you wouldn't have discovered unless you picked up an album. One of the albums I had been looking for, a band that I think doesn't get enough credit, and especially doesn't get enough credit on radio, is Thin Lizzy. And they've got an album, Live and Dangerous, that came out in 1978. And if you didn't buy the album or you didn't buy the CD, you would have never known this, but there's a special guest on that album. You look at the thank yous in the album jacket, and the first name that pops up is Bluesy Huey Lewis. And I said, wow, who knew that he was on that album? Who knew they used to call him Bluesy Huey Lewis? How cool is that?
And you just came across it?
Came across it. Another gold nugget I came across, and I've shared this with our audience. I shared it on one of our podcasts, and I like to share it with you guys because I love when you discover something on your own. I had at one point, I had the Joe Walsh anthology, and I love Joe Walsh. I really do. Big fan. And he's got this song on the anthology called Tend My Garden. Now, to me, and not to bash Joe, but I didn't think it was one of his best songs. However, this song was put out in 1969, probably written before then. But as I'm listening, I'm hearing this clapping and this rhythm, this slowed down. Dun, 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 dun. Wait a minute. I've heard that. What is that? So wait a minute. And I played it again. I played it again. And then I went and got Boston. Boston's album dropped in 1976. And the More Than a Feeling song, you hear a sped up version of Joe Walsh's Tend My Garden. You hear the sped up version. And they go into the song, but it was so cool to me because I said Boston was influenced by Joe Walsh. And just little gold nuggets like that you find out on your own. Stuff like that I'm passionate about, and I want to share that with my listeners too. I love things like that, and I love bringing it to the forefront. I love bringing it to people, letting them listen to it and hear it. And just stuff like that to me is just the coolest ever. I love it.
Just coming across that, man. If you
Yeah,
know the history of the band, and you're just sitting there listening to it, like you say, and you come across it, I bet it is exciting. Just uh, some people though, they, and I have to say, like Pandora or something like that, they play the music and then they start cutting the music off short.
right,
You
right.
don't hear you don't hear the entire song or the album. Seems a lot of stuff has been edited out of your Spotify does the same thing,
Right.
when it's swapping over. So you miss a lot of the good stuff that are in the end. I'm just trying to bring up the page because the producer said it's not letting him share.
Okay.
So we're about to.
Gotcha.
So I have a Waiting Abigail band pulled up. What's the other ones you'd like to see? Our show?
Oh my God. Phew. Almost every, but some of the bands that I think have some really cool fan pages. Not all of our bands have put together a fan page. Lauren Nicole has a good, really nice fan page. No Fly List has a pretty cool fan page. And if you look up the Pinktastic Plastics, that might come under Kitten K Sarah. I'm not sure if it brings the band themselves, but they've put together a fan page, I believe, as well. And some of our other bands have some pages up, and I've got to dive deep into a lot more of them as well. But
You
almost
said the
everybody has a link tree or a link.
you said Pinktastic
The
um,
Pinktastic Plastics, and
plastics.
yeah,
All pink.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Kitten has been in all pink since 1980. That's her theme, and that was one of the things I thought was unique about her and her band because while not everybody may find themselves listening to their band, they're doing something unique, kind of like how Kiss always wore the makeup. ZZ Top always had the beards. Well, this is their calling card, and nobody else is doing that.
They got a lot of pages.
A lot of pages, and so it can get a little overwhelming. But almost every one of our artists on Static Shift has some type of a link either to their Spotify or somewhere where you can get a little bit more info. And some of them have some really cool fan pages. Man, we'd be here all night if I was able to list them all. But I'll tell you what, it's worth going to Static Shift because you're going to hear bands of all different genres in the rock genre that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And hopefully though, our goal is that eventually you're going to hear all of them on radio. Like radio where they're played everywhere. That would be awesome.
Let's see. Entire. All right. Here we are. This is Awaiting Abigail fan page. You
Absolutely.
can see it?
What? Yep, I see it. What's
Yeah,
cool about
so
that band is three of their core members started playing in the 90s in various local bands, and they kind of got back together as like a reunion. And when they got back together as a reunion, they were joined by Mike and his daughter. And the reason the band's named Awaiting Abigail, they'll explain it to you in the bio, but James happened to discover a young lady by the name of Abigail Hill, who was an actor and a singer at the local theater there. And it just seemed fitting to name the band Awaiting Abigail, like they were just awaiting her arrival to complete the band and finally make it its true form and make it what it is. And if you ask me, they got one of the coolest band logos that I've seen in a long, long time. A lot of times the band really nails the music. They nail the group. They got everybody that they need, and they nail the name. I mean, everything's to a T. But then if you can also nail the logo, man, that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If you look
Yeah, that's
closely,
pretty
the
cool.
logo is an old school timepiece behind the band name, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a cool logo. And this one here is No Fly List.
No fly list. There, you gotta read the bios. They're really quirky and they're really fun. They talk about each member of the band, and you just got to read them for yourself. I don't want to spoil it or give it away. You guys have got to go check out their fan page. You can click on each one of those, and they tell you something really cool about each band member.
That's cool. We're not gonna spoil it for y'all.
Oh
Y'all
no!
can check them out. And then after the podcast, I'll have to check them out myself a little further.
Oh yeah, be sure you do that. I'm hoping to do a review on those guys coming up real soon. In fact, I'm halfway through. I like to study and I like to take notes. I like to listen to the songs. I like to dive into the lyrics. Like I said, I want to respect the band. I want to give them the utmost respect and their proper due. If I'm going to review a band, I don't want to come in here shooting from the hip. I want to know what I'm talking about. And so that when people hear me talking about a particular band, I don't want them to say, he's full of crap. He don't know what he's talking about. And so if I'm going to inspire you to listen to somebody, I want you to know that I know what this band is about and what they're bringing to the table.
Most definitely. And I've watched your videos, and I know you do your research for sure. Let's see. So there were several pages for the Pinktastic Plastic.
Yes, very several with them.
So let's see.
Oh, they have several pages. That page is good. Kitten's page is good.
Let's see. I think this about the band.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that one. And I think coming up pretty soon, they're also playing at the Whiskey A Go Go for a Girlactic event where they're promoting a lot of female bands. And that's something that you'll notice in our station. And that's something I've noticed on the rise in the rock and roll genre, whether it's punk, alternative, indie, grunge, 90s influenced, or just a hard rock. You're noticing a lot of female fronted bands now coming out. And I think that's awesome in a certain sense that a lot of the bands are backed by male musicians, but these guys are embracing it, and they're embracing it. Yeah. They're supporting their front woman. And that's something I also asked Miss Kenna Elpers as we recently interviewed her for the Retro FM podcast. She's a country music singer, a songwriter in country music that lives in the Nashville area. And that was something Kenna and I talked about during her interview, is how that the band members are really embracing our female artists and our female front people in our bands nowadays. They're really coming around. Whereas, used to, if a female was a lead, you would see them in the pop genre, maybe a R&B, a soul, a pop genre, but they've really been being embraced by and large in rock and roll and country music genres all over the place right now. And I think it's awesome. I really do. And a lot of good music's being produced. A lot of good, wonderful music is being put out that for years and years, not saying that it wasn't being put out, but you know as well as I do that for a long time, rock and roll, grunge, hard rock, heavy metal was dominated by men.
Yep.
And so we're inviting our ladies in now, And not that
Yeah.
there weren't some that paved the path. I did a solo episode on my Ferg and Around page. I did an episode on Joan Jett and Lita Ford, and I hope to do some more. We do have some pioneers, as I said.
You just mentioned the one I was going to say with Ozzy. Remember Ford, Lita Ford,
Oh yeah, wow.
when they sang together?
Close
That
my
was a
eyes.
good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful,
that was a
wonderful.
good one.
And you talk
Hey,
about
did you
gaining
catch?
some respect in the heavy metal world, joining with Ozzy. And I know that I do want to clarify something. During the weekend for Back to the Beginning here recently, where they did the great big Ozzy and Black Sabbath tribute, I did have some people reach out to me wondering why I wasn't covering that. And I do want to clarify there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I'd already made some prior commitments to Static Shift to try to put out some content and to pay respect to some of our bands. But also part of that was so many people were posting and covering about it that it was everywhere. I mean, it was already being
Yep.
done. It was already everywhere. And I'm a huge fan of all those bands. I watched almost every one of the performances. And if I were to do a review, man, we'd be here all night because so many of the artists did amazing, amazing job at paying tribute to Black Sabbath, paying tribute to Ozzy. There were some awesome performances, and I couldn't even name them all. I mean, well, I could, but you know what I mean.
The young blood
Youngblood,
covering Ozzy.
fantastic. Youngblood did fantastic. Slayer kicked some butt out there. Steven Tyler still sounded really good. And not to mention, for all that he was going through, Ozzy did
Yeah.
amazing. Ozzy did amazing.
Yeah.
Tool did good. Tool put on a good show. And I was very pleased to see Ronnie Wood and Rudy Sarzo come up. I was pleased to see Nuno Betancourt out there. A lot of people just don't know how great Nuno is, man. He's phenomenal. Obviously, Zach Wilde, he's phenomenal, obviously. But I didn't cover the concert because it was being covered by so many people and there were so many videos going up. But I had made some prior commitments and I didn't want to let our bands down. I didn't want to let our station down. But trust me, I watched everything that I could. Lizzie Hale,
Yeah.
one of my favorites. I love Lizzie to death. Lizzie and Hailstorm came out and rocked it out. Shout out to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Hailstorm. That's a good band too.
Oh, man.
The that Evanescence
Evanescence.
and Hailstorm. Yeah.
Evanescence. Well, Robert, I want to say this real quick. We've talked about a lot of things, but your show's called BSing. And I've got a channel called Fergin' Around, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of go together, right? Well, let me give you a BS and Fergin' Around story real quick so everybody can laugh at me. Give everybody something to laugh about here. We went to see Bush at Bridgestone Arena last year in Nashville. My favorite band out of the whole 90s was Bush. Now, I loved almost all the bands and loved that whole movement, but man, I love Bush. And if you call me on my phone, my ringtone is Come Down by Bush. But let me tell you what I did. I want everybody to be able to laugh at me like my friends did, and too bad they didn't get a video of this. Little did I know that I was going to get slightly inebriated at this show. Slightly. I may be fudging there. I might have got a little more than slightly inebriated. But I didn't know that Gavin Rosdale was going to make his way down into the crowd, into the section that we were in. And oh my God, being the Ferg like I am, overly excited, overly excitable, and slightly inebriated. Remember, as I told you, brother, on my chase to get up close to Gavin with my phone, I missed a flight of 4 stairs, bro, and busted my butt
Oh
bigger than
man.
snot. And my friends are over there just laughing their heads off at me. And I hope now you guys are too, because give you something to Ferg around and BS about. But man, I busted my butt. But being slightly inebriated, I jumped right back up like a champ, like nothing ever happened. And I was able to get literally this close to Gavin Rosdale. It was just an unbelievable experience. And I paid for it the next day, by the way. I felt it. Oh, man, did I feel it.
You get some pictures?
I got pictures. I got video. In fact, my best friend's wife got to take a picture with Gavin. And another person that was with us at the concert, I won't say much. I won't say anything good or bad. I have nothing bad to say about this person, but I'm just going to say this other person that was with us also got to have their picture taken with Gavin, and I've still got that picture. Yeah, I'm not going to come on video and say anything negative about anyone if I can. I really don't believe in doing that. I don't believe in putting anything negative out there. This is a positive space. This is a positive energy space, and this is a place to laugh, have fun, love music, and influence each other to find great music, great bands, and tell some great fun stories like that. And so,
yeah. Yeah, man. We always keep the names out when it comes to others.
absolutely.
But
you and your viewers
yes.
would have loved that. You guys would have loved seeing me miss those 4 stairs.
If somebody has it on video, that'd probably be awesome.
Nice.
As long as you got up, man.
Circulating.
As long as you got up. As long as you got up and you were okay. That's when I'd probably laugh. I'm not going to laugh at you falling. I'll make sure you're okay. You get back up, and then now we're going to laugh.
That's right. That's right.
But, yeah, at least you got to get close up and personal, man.
Absolutely.
So,
but this is where I'm at on my journey. My journey started with the influence of my dad, my uncles, my grandmother, and their music, and then growing up in the time period that I did, and then going back during the 90s to the 70s and finding some great classic rock bands, and then starting the podcast years later with my good friend Jacob Landers, who's also singer and songwriter, has an album, Me and My Guitar, out. You can find that on YouTube. You can find that on Spotify, Amazon, everywhere you download and stream music. He and I jumped headfirst into the podcast, and between doing the podcast and solo projects, Ed reached out to me, and I'm happy to be a part of Static Shift Radio. I'm thrilled to come on their sister station, Sonic Surge, which is where I do all the band reviews and try to promote and post some motivational things to all of our bands. And I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to come on today. I want to thank each and every one of our bands that's a part of Static Shift. I want to thank each and every person that makes this possible. And I just want to thank our music community for what you do and what you bring to us, bringing us something we can enjoy, to give us some time out of our day to maybe forget our troubles, maybe forget what we're going through, maybe forget for a few minutes where we're at, and take us to another place and give us something to enjoy. We thank you, and you guys rock for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, gotta love the audience, man. Yeah, that's who makes you, you know. And shout out to everybody that's watched or are going to be watching in the future. I know a lot of people are busy tonight, being a Saturday night. And originally, me and Tha Ferg were going to have the podcast on for Sunday night.
That's right.
And yeah, and so we had some things pop up, and we had to move the schedule around. So I know a lot of y'all were expecting Sunday, but we had the next best thing, and it's Saturday night. And it's going to be recorded. So for those of you that can't watch it, sit down and watch it tonight, it's on there. And we definitely are welcome. You're welcome back anytime. And also look up Tha Ferg and follow him. He has a lot of good album reviews, and he does a great job. He definitely has that radio voice.
How about the face? Face for radio?
I think you could pass, man. I think you can pass. Um, so what would you say the most overrated classic rock album is?
Ooh, the most overrated. Oh my God! In the entire classic rock era, I might have to get back to you on that one. Wow, overrated. God, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you an underrated one that I don't think gets enough credit, and I'll tell you why I say it's underrated because they only play a couple of songs from this album. And earlier this year, I sat down, played this entire album through with a drink and with my eyes closed, and just sat and played it all the way through. Totally underrated. And that's the Frampton Comes Alive album. Only a few songs get played on radio by that out. You are doing yourself a disservice if you don't sit down and listen to that album in its entirety. And that's something I'll do sometimes. I'll have music nights where all I do is sit, I turn everything off, TV, phone, everything, and I play an album through and through.
All right.
By the way,
So that was your underrated.
a comment popped up, said, I'm glad he can't say Nickelback. I do want to say something about Nickelback. That song they came out with, San Quentin, that's a real rocker. Now, I like that.
That right there, that's the producer.
Well, I appreciated that.
But
Yeah.
and you said that album was Frampton?
Frampton Comes Alive. Underrated, not overrated. Frampton Comes Alive.
All right. Just making my little notes for me to listen to.
Shoot, yeah. Absolutely. Give it a listen. Just turn everything else off and just play it.
Heck yeah, man. So let's see. You actually answered my next question, which was one of the albums you think deserves way more love.
I'll
But
tell you another one that you want to go classic rock era?
sure.
An album that deserves more love. I think it got a lot of love back during the classic rock era, but in today's radio, when they're playing songs on the radio, when they're playing bands on the radio, I'm going to give you an album that I think deserves more love that a lot of our listeners need to check out, and that's the Montrose album. That's Sammy Hagar, the Red Rocker, with Ronnie Montrose when he's probably like 18, 19 years old. And that never gets played on today's classic rock radio. The songs like Space Station Number 5 and Rock Candy and Bad Motor Scooter, man, an amazing album, amazing classic rock era album. Now, I would actually put that album up there with just about anything that's being played today. Honestly, Montrose.
Montrose.
And if by any miracle of God, Sammy's listening, I love you, Red Rocker. Congratulations on your Walk of Fame star that you got this last year for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He got his star on Hollywood, man. He deserves it. I'm a big, big Sammy Hagar fan.
That's awesome. It'd be I mean, it takes a lot for it. Too bad it didn't happen earlier in his career, though. You know, I mean, that was much deserved
Absolutely.
earlier. Um, Another question for you.
Sure.
So, do you do you prefer live albums versus pre-recorded, or do you like pre-recorded over live albums?
That depends on the album and depends on the band. There's some bands that sound just as great live as they do on a recorded album. And then there's some recorded albums that just don't bring the flair. Case in point, I told you I became a huge Kiss fan. Their live albums by and far outdo any of their studio albums. And a lot of your live albums in the 70s, I think that was a thing in the 70s. 80s and 90s didn't do as many live albums. Live and Dangerous by Thin Lizzy, fantastic. But then there are some studio albums that are so good once they're produced, I don't think you could do them live. Nirvana's Nevermind. It's a masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. God, just so many albums. It really depends on the band, depends on the material. I could name so many. In fact, speaking of studio albums, one of the best that I don't think will ever be recreated, Boston. We mentioned Boston earlier. Phenomenal studio album that I don't think will ever be recreated.
So, favorite opening track of any album?
Favorite opening track of any album? Any album?
Any album.
Oh my God. That's going to be tough. There's so many. Jeez, what would I even pick? Wow.
Some good questions for a music lover.
Man, I mean, these are stumpers. They used to play Stump the Trunk with Eddie Trunk. I think you've stumped the Ferg here. Wow. Favorite opening track of any album whatsoever. I mean, oh my God. Like there's just, jeez. I mean, I could go any genre, any era. And I better come up with something soon because everybody's listening. An opening track. I'll tell you what.
We can come back to it if you'd like.
Yeah, let's
give you a little time.
Well, let's do that. And I mean, it's just I have so many albums, and there's just so much and so many bands. It's like, how do I pick one? And
because all are your favorite.
Right? Absolutely, absolutely. Like, my God, because I listen to everything. I listen to absolutely everything. My goodness. Man, I mean, I've got blues, I've got heavy metal, I've got hard rock, classic rock, you name it. I've got some of it here.
All right, so while you're thinking of that, Ferg, I got you one. So, how do you balance new discoveries with old school love? Like, so you love the old stuff. How do you balance the new stuff? You know, because the new stuff, you know, it's a little different. Some of it hangs on to that similarity of the old. How do you balance that?
Balance it. You talking about as far as
like
your
love for it, like
or are you talking about as far as just my listening and so forth?
Your love for it, listening to it,
okay,
and choosing what you think is the music.
Well, believe it or not, there's really not a method to the madness there, because you may find me at one moment, you may find me coming home jamming out to some Van Halen, but then the next minute I may get in the car and be like, you know what? I'm going to listen to Seether. You know, one of my very favorite bands is Seether. There's times
I like some Seether.
that maybe I want to listen to some Breaking Benjamin or something like that,
Good
or some
band too.
Chevelle. But then after listening to Chevelle, I might come home and pop in some Gary Clark Jr. You know, I may come home one evening and then I was like, okay, this is a Guns N' Roses night, or this is Aerosmith night. There's sometimes I come in and I says, you know what? This is a Rolling Stones night, because I'm a huge Stones fan. Huge
So
Stones
maybe,
fan. In fact,
so
there's
maybe,
an answer for you. Favorite opening song off of any. Here we go. I love the Exile on Main Street album by the Rolling Stones. Arguably one of their best albums ever. Rocks Off, I believe, is opening song on that. Love it. From start to finish, love it. Rocks Off by the Rolling
Rolling
Stones
Stones.
off Exile on Main Street.
See, another question. Got it.
Don't you
Nah,
love
but
how that works?
oh yeah, man. So would you say your mood plays a little bit on how you're
Mood,
feeling?
mood plays a big part in it. And some days after work, you know, it just depends on the mood. Or say if I just come from the gym and I want to slow down because I've already been pumped up, you know, I might listen to something a little bit slower. Sometimes it depends on who you're with. If you're sharing music with a friend or if you're just doing it
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. I know that I've got a real good friend of mine that from time to time, instead of just the rock and roll, we like to sit down and hang out together, and we'll listen to country music. We'll listen to Mr. Eric Church, and we'll just play a lot of his music. And so mood plays a part in it. Who you're with plays a part in it. Sometimes how your day went. And speaking of music being therapeutic, sometimes when you want to hide, some of the toughest times in my life, I don't want to put a lot of my personal business out there, but I'll say sometimes when relationship situations have been very difficult in my life, I found myself hiding in the blues, hiding in Stevie Ray Vaughan, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, hiding in Mr. Buddy Guy. And just those guys have got me through some very tough times. Very tough times. And when I was going through a very difficult time, I'll never forget the day that I played Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone by Cinderella over and over and over and over. I played that sucker all day.
That's a good tune, man. I remember the music video, and he also had what? There was another video. Well, didn't they start that one out on the piano? Out on
Started
the
on the
like,
piano. Yep.
yeah. So yeah, it's amazing these old classic songs, and they're still here. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And Tom Kiefer still has a great voice. I know he went through some trouble with his voice at one point in his life, but he's been singing again and putting out material again, and just absolutely one of my favorites.
Mm, heck yeah. Let's see. All right. Well, um, what would you say your theme song for your life right now?
Ooh, theme song from our
What would be your I'm walking out in this thing. I'm walking out, and this is my theme song.
Rock
What is
Rock Till You Drop by Def Leppard.
it? I love some Def Leppard too, man. Uh, I sorry, audience. I wish I could play these songs, or at least just a piece of it. But you know how YouTube is.
Right, absolutely. You
So,
don't want to
but
upset the YouTube gods there.
uh, yep. But yeah, man, it's that classic music. When we are driving back from Tennessee, we played a lot of that coming back. Def Leppard, Journey, love some Journey.
Heck yeah.
Uh, I love some Aerosmith. Um, I mean, White Snake.
Oh man. Oh my God. Yeah.
uh, I mean, there are a lot of old music, or a lot of old classics.
Speaking of White Snake,
Uh,
here's something for your viewers. Here's something for our listeners. David Coverdale at one time was in Deep Purple. So maybe you want to go and research that and check out some Deep Purple while Coverdale was there.
Hey,
Yeah, I thought I'd throw
interesting.
some nuggets out there. I don't know it all. I promise you. I totally do not know all of it. There's things that I don't know. I promise you, and things I'm still discovering. And that's the beauty of it. As you take this musical journey, there's things that you still discover all the time.
That's for sure. You never stop learning.
Never,
That's
never.
it's one when you come across that person that says he knows it all, you might want to walk away.
Walk away. That's right.
Mhm. But so okay. At this point, we know you do the album reviews. You do a great job at it. What is the best feedback you've ever received from your reviews?
Oh, wow. Some of the best feedback that I've gotten from my reviews when I came back, okay, some of the best feedback was seeing all the likes and the comments when I reviewed Pinktastic Plastics. They really reached out, and I'll tell you why I was impressed. Because Kitten has been in Hollywood for years now. She's a Hollywood staple. She's been known as the Pink Lady of Hollywood. She's an artist, a singer, an entertainer, and has been on several television shows and so forth. And so for somebody of her caliber to take the time to write back and tell me how they appreciated me doing the review, they were generous. Waiting Abigail's been very generous, and in fact, their bassist Lauren recently, I think it is Lauren. Let me not say the name wrong on camera. I got them right up behind me. I'll get in trouble for this. But we've had some discussions back and forth here lately about some of the music that we like, such as Sonic Youth, the Pixies, Breeders, and things like that. And so getting the feedback from them, Lauren Nicole gave me some great feedback. And just some of the greatest feedback that I've got from the reviews have been those bands. And I think 42 was very appreciative. But one thing that I started, this is a little bit extra to the question you asked me. Something that I started was on Sundays, rather than putting out videos and reviews, I've started to try to kind of play PR and just reach out to everybody and let them know how much we appreciate them being a part of our channel. And I've gotten so much positive feedback from all the bands. It's like people like to know they're not forgotten. People like to know that they're
Yeah.
appreciated for being a part of something. If they're going to send you their songs, if they're going to send you their links, if they're going to take the time to share their music with your page, they want to know they're not forgotten about. And so reaching out, man, that's had a big, big positive impact and a positive response.
Yeah. That's awesome. And definitely I could see the positivity in reminding them that you're like you're on top of it. You're playing their music, and they haven't been forgotten. Um, I do want to pause for a second.
Sure.
It seems that we had some comments that let's see, producer must be sleeping.
Oh,
Uh, so all right, we have one that says, "Don't forget about Flyleaf, Lacey Strom." Let's see.
Flyleaf. Yeah, I like those guys.
Yeah.
And who
Can you
else?
see you see you
Who
can
else?
see the comments, huh?
I'm not seeing them right now. I think I see them sometimes when they pop up. I may have to touch the screen to see them. Will that mess up what we're doing?
Oh, I don't know. Let me see. So it says, don't forget about Flyleaf, Lacey Strum. And then also Justin says, records or CDs? Long debated. Opinion?
Okay. Here's my opinion. I still love CDs because I'm able to play them in my current vehicle, and I'm also able to play them on my wooden music box. However, records, I love that records have made a comeback. I love it. I love the fact that records have made such a huge comeback, and I do have a turntable. I'm able to play records. And the thing of it is, they used to put so much cool stuff in the records and in the record albums and in the record jackets. In fact, just recently I was reminded of how that you could turn this little dial on the Led Zeppelin 3 album cover and see these different photos. That's the kind of cool stuff you don't get from streaming or downloading. Now, I will say this, now that records have made a comeback, depending on where you shop at different, say, open door flea markets, and maybe like we just recently went up to McKay's in Nashville, different places that still sell CDs. I will say, I'm getting tongue tied here. I will say that now that records have made a comeback, CDs are more cost effective, probably to your budget. But sometimes going in record shops now, finding an original album is really something special that you can hold tangible in your hands. And so I love record stores. I absolutely love them. I could spend hours, and I love record stores. I love records. I love that I can play records. I think we were told back in the day that CDs brought out a better sound quality, but I'll tell you, one of the best records that I ever listened to on a record player was Foghat, hearing Fool for the City and I Just Want to Make Love to You on a turntable, and the sound quality in that vinyl blew me away. Absolutely blew me away.
Nice. Well, Justin, that's his opinion right there.
Sure. Absolutely. Just an
Um,
opinion, not a fact,
uh,
not something you can research.
nah. You know, everybody always has that question. And, you know, I've been debating, I used to have a record player. I don't anymore, unfortunately, but I'm contemplating about getting a new one, you know, just to listen to some old stuff.
Oh, heck yeah.
I still have some old vinyls that's in storage right now that you would probably drool over.
Oh, I
Like
know.
some of the old original Journeys, the Led Zeppelins, there's a stack of them, you know, I'd have to bring out. Um, Also, you have another question. Do you play any kind of instruments?
I do not, and I wish I did. I wish I would have, because I remember years ago when I was growing up, I would go over to my buddy Steve's after school and sit and listen to him play guitar. And man, I should have picked up a guitar. In fact, my good friend Timmy also gifted me a blues harp that I've tooled around with a little bit here and there, but I'm by no means a genius on the harmonica. At best, here and there, I can sing some karaoke sometimes, and I have to be selective in the songs that I pick because only certain stuff goes with my voice. And so I stay in the rock and roll genre, but there's some stuff that I want to do that I can't do, and it breaks my heart because I can't do it. I wish I played, and so the answer is no, sadly, but that's my fault. I should have given more time to that. As being such a music lover that I am, I wish I would have given a lot more time to it, and I didn't.
All right. Another one from Dirty. He says, what the sad part, well, I'll put it on here.
Sure.
You just have, what the sad part is, We are the last ones to enjoy all the old music. This new generation don't know the good stuff.
I'll argue with that. I'll tell you why. Right before I started all this, and I told it in my very first video that I dropped in YouTube, something that I like to do sometimes, I'll go into a store, a record store, or a local Walmart or wherever. And when I get to the music section, it's not that I disrespect or don't like other genres of music. I really do. But sometimes I want to promote a certain album, like maybe I want to promote this Billy Idol album. I'm like, hey, y'all need to look at this, or a, whatever. Well, I had put in some Metallica albums out front. This 12-year-old boy comes by, and I hear him say, I love Metallica. And that caught me. I turned around, I looked, I said, how old are you? He says, I'm 12 years old. And he starts telling me how him and his dad were going to go to the Aerosmith concert, but that was before it had gotten canceled. There were some issues and so forth. And he's telling me about wanting to be a drummer and talking to me about how he likes Slipknot and how him and his dad had went to this Metallica show and everything. And eventually the dad comes over and we just engage in this great conversation. But I thought of it, this young man's 12 years old. And then I saw something else that I've never seen anywhere else. I went to see Greta Van Fleet. And as you know, Greta, when they first came out, everybody thought new version of Led Zeppelin because we could hear it. I mean, it was at that show, I kid you not. This is no lie. I'm not ferging around with you guys. I witnessed the greatest crowd reaction to a band that I've ever seen in my life. Now, granted, I've not been to all the concerts all you guys have been to. Maybe you've seen stuff that would blow my mind. But out of all the concerts I've went to, the way the crowd, and this crowd was full of young people now, I'm not kidding you, because newer band, younger people, the way they gathered toward the front and the way everybody had their lights up, the way we would have lighters back then, like it was unbelievable. The full attention, and nobody was sitting down. Nobody was sitting down. Everybody was on their feet. Everybody was rushed up to that stage and paying attention to absolutely everything the brothers were doing. And it was beautiful to watch. I had not seen this because I've seen Smashing Pumpkins. I've seen Bush. I've seen Kiss reunited. Thank God I saw the reunited Kisses. Amazing show. And I've been to some other concerts, but out of every concert I ever went to, people in certain stages, they were sitting down. People were there that were not as enthusiastic about the music at that entire Greta show. And there were young people everywhere. It seemed to me like everybody was engaged, and it blew my mind. No, there's hope. This young generation, there's hope. Now, granted, my kids told me today, and I don't mind saying this, my kids did tell me, he said, Dottie, people my generation are not listening to that. They're into Drake and Travis Scott and whatever they're playing on Fortnite or your YouTubers, whatever they listen to. Dottie, you would be in the weird kids today because that's what the weird kids would listen to. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take them. I'll take all the weird kids, all you emo kids, all of you. You guys come on. I'll have all of you. We'll embrace everybody because, when I was growing up, the cool kids listened to rock and metal. I mean, that's just how it was. But, of course, we did. We listened to everything. We listened to all of it. But no. It seems like it's dying. It's not dying. I promise you. It seems like it, but it's not. It's not. My best friend's son just turned 18, and he's just now getting into Slipknot and Gojira. He likes a band called Glory Hammer.
Gojira.
Yeah. He likes. He also likes a band called Glory Hammer. He had a shirt. I'm trying to remember. He listens to now. I don't listen to a lot of black metal, but he's listening to some black metal. But the kid's 18 years old. So we do still have some young ones out there embracing rock and metal, just some of the newer bands that are out, though.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing, man. And I think it depends on who their parent is too.
Oh, it
You
does.
know what they listen to, because if they've never heard it before, then it's kind of hard to go to it.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
as like say when I'm traveling around, I come across certain, like say I can walk up and someone's playing some music with their family, and I can hear country. All right, so then I'll walk over here to classic rock, and even in my own family, there's some that do not listen to anything but classic rock.
Okay.
You will not get them to listen to nothing else.
Right. They're not
So
going to listen to Seether with us.
they're they're going to listen to classic rock, and that's it. And and I commend anyone that listens to any music. You know, I enjoy all the music.
That's right.
Some so there's some that if I can't understand it, then I might not. But you know, um, well, so let's see. I think I seen another. It reminds. So Dirty said you remind him of Corey Taylor.
I remind him of
Oh,
Corey Taylor. That's a huge
that's a.
compliment.
But
That's a
let's
huge
see.
compliment. Love Corey Taylor.
Oh, Dirty. So what has surprised you most about doing your reviews and our podcasting? So, like, have you run into anything that you're like just going along and it's like somebody says something that either amazes you or surprises you during a
Well,
show?
what amazes me is the outpouring of support that we get from the bands that show their love and show their respect for what we're doing and so forth. And then sometimes with the podcast that Jacob and I have, we may not necessarily see it reflected sometimes in the likes, but we'll meet people in public that come up and ask us about the show and talk to us about it and tell us, hey, I didn't get to finish this episode. I'm halfway in, but I'm going to listen to it on the way to work today or something like that. We've been told that, or we've been approached by some people that I've listened to each and every one of your episodes. They're fantastic. And just to see that, because like I said, sometimes on YouTube or some of the platforms where you post, you don't feel like you're getting the recognition, but then you'll see somebody out in public or somebody in person and they have comments, and it's always amazing. In fact, I had somebody reach out that actually works at a radio show reach out recently that I went to school with, and I didn't even know he was listening. And he was asking me certain questions, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't even know you were listening." And so that was a big surprise, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, man, when somebody even like for instance when you reached out when I heard 42 you were doing a interview at 42 and on Static Shift Radio it was mentioned that they were on the show and I
Right,
was like, man, that's cool. That is cool.
right.
You
I
know,
man, I love those
it's like,
guys. Yep.
you know, but it's always being a podcaster or a reviewer. It's always, you're say you're
Hmm.
right here, and then just one person says, "Man, I enjoyed your watching your video," or I seen that episode, and you're doing a great job, and then now you're here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's always amazing, um, and I would say if I had to give any advice, is stay consistent. Don't be, I wouldn't be as consistent as everyday content. You'll burn yourself out. Like anyone, I try not to do anything unless like say if I'm gonna go on, like I told you when I was going on vacation, I set up and scheduled some short video shorts on
Right.
YouTube and stuff. That way, every couple days, my audience had something to watch while I'm out. And I try to do that now. I try to change at least one thing after every episode. And my change from the previous episode was to put shorts in between to the next interview.
Okay.
So now, like after this interview, I'm going to create shorts and I'm going to give the audience some short videos of some of the highlights. And they can watch that until the next interview. And I just try to, I don't want to burn myself out, but I want to keep going and I want to stay consistent. YouTube is all about consistency.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
They will not, they will not promote your music if you don't show any consistency.
Right.
So, or any kind of podcast or any content that you put out, you have to stay consistent. That's the one thing about your videos. Like I come across, like I can right now, I can go and I can find your videos, and you have something coming out, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll sit there and watch it. But
I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd say for anyone out there, stay consistent. I wouldn't go out buying hundreds or $1,000 mics or setups. Have you a good laptop where you can take it with you. If you like to move around like you do, Ferg, you have you a good laptop, get you a good mic, and you can get one for $50. Start off with that. You start making a little cash, then you can upgrade your equipment. The thing we got to remember is we're there for the bands, we're there for our guests to get their names out and to provide entertainment to people.
That's right.
And
absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
But any thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience? We're coming up on 2 hours, and we'll start working our way to a close.
Right. They've probably had enough of me by now. But one thing that I would say, I would say thank you for having me on and thank you for what you do. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you reaching out. And I want to say a special thank you to Ed and Static Shift for inviting me to be a part of the station. And I'd like to thank my brother and partner, Jacob Landers, who does the podcast, the Retro FM podcast with me. He's been a big part of my encouragement, especially times when you get down and you think, God, should I throw in the towel? Am I doing, what I should continue? Should I continue this? And Jacob's been steadfast, just like, hey, bro, we're doing some awesome stuff. Hang in there. And we are doing some awesome stuff. And then I'll say this lastly, and this is another piece of motivation why I continue to do what I do. Yes, I'm talking about music, and for the most part, we're talking about music, but I'm a huge basketball fan. And you may not know that from watching me because all I talk about is music. But growing up, obviously, I grew up watching Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan was Superman to us growing up and one of my heroes. And I remember they asked him one time, why did he still play so hard when, say, they were playing a team they knew everybody could beat? And he said something to the effect that there might be that one kid out there in the audience that never got to see me play. So I'm going to go out here and I'm going to put on my best. There may be that one person. Maybe I didn't get all these listeners here or these here or the ones I wanted over there. Or maybe sometimes I'm butthurt because I'm like, oh, I only got 5 views. But there's that one person listening that's looking forward to your content. That's who you're doing it for. There's one person out there that every time you put up content, they want to hear what you got to say because you're driving them to music, bands, artists that they would otherwise never even hear of. And so they're waiting on you to tell them something. That's who I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for that person that says, hey. And so that's part of my motivation as well. And so with that, I just want to thank everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for inviting me on. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. I know this has kind of been quite long, but thanks for sticking it out with us.
Yep.
Oh,
And Ferg,
don't forget to rock. Don't forget to rock.
All right. The Ferg, everyone. I want to thank the audience for watching this tonight. Thank you for coming on and staying with BSing with Why Eagle Why. And thanks for the Ferg coming out. Also, the producer, Disease, y'all can't see him, but he's been in the background monitoring chats and, monitoring chats and controlling the sounds. So I want to thank him. Thank everyone for watching.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Y'all have a good night. And until next time, stay tuned for the next episode of BSing with Why Eagle Why.